Hey everyone, welcome back. You've been thinking about starting a 501c3 nonprofit. We're going to take a deep dive into that
Oh,
today.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, using this source you sent us,
Yeah.
how to create a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Should be pretty useful.
Yeah, it should be. It's like a roadmap for success.
Yeah, definitely. So let's start. What is a 501c3?
Mm.
Why is it important for nonprofits? I mean, people talk about it all the time,
But
but
well, basically,
what is it really?
it's a designation you get from the IRS, and it gives your nonprofit tax-exempt status.
Okay,
And then you can get like grants, and your donors can deduct their donations from their taxes
right. So that's huge. I mean, that's obviously super important and something you want to get right away.
right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So step one of that process is to craft a compelling mission statement.
Mm.
Now, I know people got to roll their eyes when they hear that sometimes,
Yeah.
but it is important. And I think the best example I can think of is charity, water.
Oh,
Their mission statement is so simple: to bring clean and safe drinking water to every person on the planet.
yeah.
But it really does get to the core of what they do.
Yeah, and it just kind of hits you right in the feels.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Right. And, you read that and you know exactly what they do, what their goal is, what their purpose is. And it really does resonate with people. So when you're coming up with your mission statement, think about that. Think about, what problem are you tackling?
Yeah.
Who are you helping? What makes your approach unique?
That's a good point. And the source actually provides some really good questions to kind of brainstorm around that.
Yeah, definitely. And the formula that they give is to, and then a verb that describes your work.
Uh-huh.
And then plus your target audience,
Yeah.
plus the positive impact that you will create.
Right. So that's a good kind of structure to think about.
Yeah, so think about it as like your elevator pitch,
Mm-hmm.
for your nonprofit.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
All right, so moving on to a name. Choosing the perfect name for your organization. Super important too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a knight choosing a banner. You gotta have a good one.
Right, and
Yeah.
there's got to be a good one. But also, you got to think about availability. Make sure the name is available,
Yeah.
not just in your state,
Oh, yeah.
but in other states.
Yeah.
And, is the domain name available? Are the social media handles available?
Especially in this day and age.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that due diligence before you really fall in love with a name, because that's a huge heartbreak.
Right, because you could put all this work into this name and then boom, somebody else already has it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then think about it,
Yeah.
does it align with your mission? Is it simple and easy to remember? And is it going to be relevant in the future?
Future proof, that's a good point. Because a lot of organizations, they start out and then they realize, oh, maybe our name is a little too narrow or something.
Right, right.
And it boxes them in.
So, all right, so now we have a name, we have a mission statement. The next thing we got to do is assemble a board of directors.
Ooh, yeah. These are the folks that are going to be your backbone.
Right, and they're going to be doing a lot of work. So you really want to make sure you get the right people.
The right people, yeah. I mean, the source recommends looking for people with experience in like finance and law and marketing.
Right, yeah. So it's not just like, well, this person has a big name.
Yeah, it's got to be people who can really contribute.
Right, yeah. They have to have the skills to contribute, and they have to be passionate about the work that you're doing and really believe in your mission.
Right. Passion's important
Yeah.
because a board that believes in what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
that's going to be your strongest advocate out there.
Right, right. Okay, so now we've got a board assembled, and we're moving on to something that maybe isn't quite as fun, but it's still super important. Bylaws.
Ah, yes.
Bylaws, yeah. So what are bylaws and why are they so important?
Well, basically, bylaws are like the rule book for your nonprofit. They outline how things are run,
All right.
like how decisions are made, who's responsible for what.
Okay.
And they also help you deal with conflicts if they arise.
So this is sort of setting up the structure of the organization in terms
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, like the foundation.
right, yeah, the
Yep.
foundation. Who has what powers, what responsibilities,
Yeah.
who's going to be doing what?
Yeah, it's really important to get this right. And the source actually has a really good section on the key elements that you should include in your bylaws.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is also where having an attorney would be a great idea.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because
Right.
an attorney can help you navigate all the legal stuff and make sure that your bylaws are solid.
Right. You don't want to mess this up.
Nope.
So, all right, so now we have a great team, we have a clear mission, we have a really solid rule book. Now we're ready for the big leagues.
Yeah, time to get that 501c status.
Right. So how do we actually go about securing that coveted tax-exempt status?
So the source actually breaks it down into like really easy to follow steps, and it guides you through all the paperwork, which can be a little bit daunting, but it's all laid out there for you.
So this is where the source is really going to come in handy.
Oh yeah, this is its shining moment.
Okay, good, good. So first step, you got to figure out, are we going to file Form 1023 or Form 1023 EZ?
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of people get confused about the difference between the two.
Yeah.
So Form 1023, that's the standard application for most nonprofits. It's very comprehensive.
Okay.
It covers like every aspect of your organization.
Okay, so if you're a larger organization or you have a more complex structure, you're probably going to be filing Form 1023.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if your organization is smaller and has like simpler operations and a smaller budget,
Okay.
then you can probably go with the 1023 EZ.
So that's a shortcut.
Yeah, think of it as a shortcut. It requires less information and it's usually processed faster.
Okay.
So it's good for like, smaller organizations that don't have all that complexity.
Okay, so basically if you're a little simpler and smaller, go with the EZ. If you're a little larger and more complex, go with the 1023.
Right, and the source goes into a lot of detail about each one.
Okay, good.
And kind of helps you decide which one is right for you.
All right, so we've chosen a form. Now we have to gather all of these documents that we need to file.
Yeah, so we're talking financial statements, we're talking those bylaws that you just put so much work into.
Okay.
And you're also going to need to write like a narrative, a description of your mission, your activities, how you're going to use your resources.
So it's not just about the numbers and the legalities. It's about really telling your story to the IRS and showing them the impact that you're going to have.
It's about the heart.
Okay.
You got to show them the heart behind your mission.
So this is where, you really want to spend some time crafting a compelling narrative that really shows them, this is what we're going to do. This is who we are, and this is why we're going to make a difference.
Yeah, because they need to see that, They need to see the passion.
Okay, so you got your narrative, you got your financials, you got your bylaws. Now what?
Now you submit that application.
Okay.
And you pay your filing fee. And then you wait.
Okay.
The waiting game.
So how long does that usually take?
Well, it can vary, depending on a few factors. But the source actually gives some good tips on how to track your application status.
Oh, good.
And what factors might affect the timeline.
Right.
So you're not just left in the dark.
Well, I was going to say, this is where we get really nervous, but at least they give us some tips.
Yeah, it's not a black box.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So we filed, we're waiting. Now, what about state level benefits?
Oh, that's a great point, because a lot of people think, oh, I got my federal tax-exempt status, I'm done.
Yeah, that's it, right. We're good to go.
No, not necessarily. Because a lot of states offer additional benefits and tax breaks to nonprofits.
Oh, so this is really important. We need to check our state's specific regulations to see if there's anything else that we need to do or apply for.
Yeah, it's worth it to do that research. Okay.
Because you could be missing out on some valuable benefits.
Right. And the source does mention, checking state government websites.
Yeah.
Or dedicated nonprofit offices in your state to see what's out there.
Right. It's like maximizing your resources.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we are off to a good start here. We've covered a lot of really important information in a short amount of time. We've talked about, choosing the right name, crafting a powerful mission statement, assembling a stellar board. We talked about bylaws.
Yes.
Getting that tax-exempt status.
Super important.
And we've only just begun. So buckle up, because we're about to dive even deeper into the world of nonprofit creation.
Yeah, we got more to come. Stay tuned.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay, so we've got those foundational elements in place. Let's talk about some of the ongoing aspects of running a successful nonprofit. And the first thing that comes to mind is financial management.
Okay, financial management. That sounds
I know.
A little scary.
A little intimidating.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be. The source does a really good job of breaking it down.
Okay.
And, it's basically about being a good steward of the funds that you've worked so hard to raise.
Right.
And making sure that every dollar is used effectively to further your mission.
Right. So where do we even begin?
Well, the source talks a lot about the importance of establishing clear financial controls.
Okay.
Right from the get-go.
So this is like setting up those guardrails.
Yeah.
Making sure that everything is transparent.
Yeah.
Accountable, separating duties for transactions.
Yeah, separating duties is huge. And having multiple people, review and approve expenses.
So that's checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
It's just like, in any well-run organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then don't forget about audits.
Ooh, audits.
I know.
That's a scary word.
It can be,
Yeah.
but they're really important for maintaining your financial health
Uh-huh.
and building trust with your donors,
Hmm.
right? So it's not just about having those internal controls, but also being transparent externally with the people who are supporting you.
Transparency is key.
Mhm.
You want to be upfront about how you're using those donations.
Yeah.
You want to publish clear and accessible financial reports
Yeah.
and be open to answering any questions that your donors might have.
Okay, so we've got our finances under control. What about risk management?
Ah, risk management.
Another one that kind of,
I know it's not the most exciting topic,
oh,
but it's super important, and your source actually dedicates a whole section to it,
oh,
which I think speaks volumes
yeah.
about how important it is.
So what kind of risks are we talking about here?
Well, there's financial risks, there's operational risks, there's legal risks, there's reputational risks.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And, it's not just about preventing these bad things from happening.
Right.
It's also about having a plan in place if they do.
Right. So it's like the what if this happens.
Yeah, the what ifs.
Yeah, we need a plan for that.
You got to be prepared. So the source talks about things like developing strong internal controls,
Uh-huh.
having adequate insurance coverage,
Okay.
diversifying your funding sources.
Right. Spreading it out.
Spreading it out, exactly. And they even talk about having a crisis communication plan.
A crisis communication plan. Okay. So this is if
If something bad happens.
like a natural disaster or, a negative news story comes out.
Right, something that could potentially damage your reputation.
Right. And you need to know how to respond to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, having that plan in place can really help you navigate those tricky situations
Okay.
and minimize any potential damage.
All right. So we've talked about the kind of doom and gloom of finances and risks.
Right.
Let's move on to something a little more uplifting.
Okay.
Building a strong and engaged team.
Yeah, because the people are the heart and soul of any nonprofit.
They really are.
And, you want to create a positive work environment
Right.
where everyone feels valued and empowered and connected to the mission.
So how do we create that kind of environment?
Well, the source talks about a few things, starting with defining roles and responsibilities
Okay.
clearly.
Well, everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Right, everybody knows what's expected of them.
Yeah.
And then providing opportunities for professional development
Uh-huh.
and growth. So your team members feel like they're learning and growing.
So you're investing in them as well.
Investing in them, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, fostering open communication,
Okay.
creating a space where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas,
Yeah.
their concerns, their feedback.
So it's very open and,
Open and honest.
yeah, communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then don't forget about recognition.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
A simple thank you can go a long way.
It really can.
And then, make people feel appreciated.
Okay, so we've talked about, the paid staff.
Mm.
But what about volunteers?
Ah, volunteers.
Huge part of a lot of nonprofits.
Huge part. I mean, they bring so much to the table.
They do.
Skills and passion and dedication.
Yeah.
And your source actually has a whole section on recruiting, managing, and retaining volunteers.
Okay, so what are some of the key things to keep in mind when we're working with volunteers?
Well, just like with paid staff, volunteers need to understand their roles
Mm-hmm.
and expectations. They need to know how their contributions fit into the bigger picture.
Right.
And you also want to make sure that they get adequate training
Okay.
and support so that they feel confident.
So they can be successful.
Successful, exactly. And then recognition.
There's that word again.
It's so important.
Recognition.
Recognition.
Yeah.
Because volunteers are often the unsung heroes.
They are.
So, make sure you acknowledge their hard work and dedication.
Okay.
Whether it's, hosting volunteer appreciation events or highlighting their contributions in your newsletter or on social media.
Right.
Or just, saying thank you.
A simple thank you goes a long way.
Goes a long way.
All right, so we've talked about building a great team, paid staff, and volunteers. Let's talk about something that's a little bit harder to measure, evaluating your impact.
Yeah, this is one of those things that's really important, but it can be kind of tricky.
It's hard to quantify sometimes.
It is. But the source emphasizes the importance of having a plan for measuring and evaluating your impact.
Okay, so we need a plan. We can't just kind of hope for the best.
No, you got to be intentional about it.
Okay.
And the source recommends using something called SMART goals.
SMART goals.
Okay.
Have you heard of those?
I have specific, measurable, attainable,
Achievable. Yeah.
relevant, and time-bound.
That's it.
Okay.
And it's a good framework for setting goals
Okay.
that are actually meaningful and that you can track.
So can you give us an example of what a SMART goal might look like?
Sure. Let's say your organization focuses on providing educational resources to underserved communities. Yeah.
A SMART goal might be to increase the number of students we reach with our after-school tutoring program by 20% within the next year.
Okay, so that is very specific. It's measurable. It's time-bound.
Exactly.
All right, so we've got our SMART goals. How do we actually gather the data to track our progress?
Well, the source recommends a variety of methods, things like surveys, interviews,
Okay.
focus groups, tracking program outcomes. And you can also collect data from existing sources,
Okay.
like attendance records or academic performance reports.
It's about using a mix of different methods to really get a well-rounded picture
Exactly, yeah.
of how you're actually doing.
Right. And then you can use that data to make decisions and improve your programs.
Okay, so it's not just about like checking a box
No.
or proving to funders that we're doing a good job.
Right.
It's about actually looking at what we're doing
Learning.
and making sure it's working.
Learning and growing, yeah.
Okay, so data is our friend.
Data is our friend.
All right, so let's move on to something that's essential for any nonprofit fundraising.
Ah, the F word.
Right. I mean,
I know a lot of people get really nervous about fundraising,
I do.
but it doesn't have to be scary.
Okay.
The source provides a ton of information on developing a comprehensive fundraising plan
Okay.
that aligns with your mission and your goals.
All right, so where do we begin?
Well, the first thing the source talks about is diversifying your funding sources.
Okay, diversified. So we're not putting all our eggs in one basket.
Because if you rely too heavily on one source of funding, whether it's individual donations or grants or corporate sponsorships,
Right.
you're vulnerable.
If that dries up.
If that dries up, exactly.
Okay, so what are some different sources that we should be looking at?
Well, the source recommends exploring a mix of individual donations,
Okay.
grants from foundations and government agencies, corporate sponsorships,
Okay.
fundraising events,
All right.
and even earned income opportunities.
Earned income opportunity.
Yeah, where your organization actually generates revenue through activities
Okay.
related to your mission.
So it's like a little side hustle.
Yeah, kinda.
Okay. But how do we know which ones are right for us?
That's a great question. And the source really emphasizes understanding your audience
Okay.
and your unique value proposition.
All right, so who are the people who are most likely to support us?
Right. And what are their motivations for giving?
Yeah.
And what makes your organization stand out?
Yeah. What's our unique thing?
What's your unique thing, exactly?
Okay, so it's about, really tailoring our fundraising strategy
Tailoring, yeah.
to our specific audience.
Absolutely. And remember, fundraising is about more than just asking for money.
Okay.
It's about building relationships,
Uh-huh.
sharing your story,
Okay.
and inspiring people to invest in your vision.
Okay, so it's about building those connections.
Connections. Yeah.
Okay, and it's not just about the money.
It's about the mission.
All right, so fundraising. Yeah, we could probably do a whole deep dive just on fundraising.
Oh, for sure.
But let's move on to something else that's really important, technology.
Technology, yeah, I mean, it's a game changer for nonprofits.
It really is. And it's changing all the time.
All the time. So you got to stay up to date.
So what are some ways that nonprofits can really leverage technology?
Well, the source talks about a lot of different tools and platforms.
Okay.
But, social media is huge. I mean, it's such a powerful tool for connecting with supporters.
Right.
Sharing updates, raising awareness.
Yeah, it's really transformed the way that nonprofits communicate.
Completely, yeah.
Okay, what else?
Email marketing.
Email marketing.
Still important
Okay.
for staying in touch with your supporters,
Right.
sharing news and updates, sending out fundraising appeals.
So it's all about building that digital community and keeping them informed.
Exactly.
What about our website?
Your website, that's your online home. It's often the first impression that people have of your organization.
Okay, so that's super important.
So you want to make sure it's user-friendly,
Uh-huh.
visually appealing,
Okay.
and clearly communicates your mission, your impact, how people can get involved.
Okay.
And make sure it's mobile-friendly, too.
Oh, right, because everyone's on their phone.
Everybody's on their phone.
So you got to make sure it looks good on a phone.
Exactly. And then beyond those basic tools, there's a ton of other software and online platforms
Okay.
that are designed specifically for nonprofits.
So like what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, there's tools for project management, volunteer coordination, data analysis, donor management.
Wow, it's a lot.
It is a lot. But the key is to find the tools that meet your needs and your budget.
Right. Don't go overboard.
Don't go overboard, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
See what works for you.
All right. So we've got our tech stack figured out. Let's talk about marketing and communication.
Ah, yes. This is all about telling your story effectively
Uh-huh.
and connecting with your target audience.
Okay. So how do we create a message that's really going to resonate?
Well, the source talks about developing a clear and concise message
Right.
that highlights the impact of your work and articulates your value proposition.
So it's like, who are we helping? What difference are we making?
Right.
And why should anyone care?
Why should they care? Exactly. And you want to tell that story in a way that connects with people on an emotional level.
So it's not just about the facts and figures.
No, it's about the heart.
It's about the heart.
Yeah.
Okay. And once we have that message,
You got to share it
we got to share it right.
strategically.
But where do we share it? I mean,
So many options: print materials, social media, email marketing, public relations events.
it feels overwhelming.
It can be, but you got to think about your target audience and where they're hanging out.
Right. And then tailor your message to that specific audience.
Exactly. And then track your results.
Data, again, our friend.
Data is our friend. See what's working, what's not,
Oh.
so you can refine your strategies.
All right. So now let's talk about the power of storytelling.
Oh, storytelling. I love this.
It's huge.
It's the best way to connect with people
Mm-hmm.
on an emotional level, inspire empathy, motivate them to take action.
Right. Because stories, I feel like they stay with people
They do.
more than just, facts and figures.
Facts and figures are important, but the stories are what people remember.
There are. So how do we find those stories and how do we share them?
Well, the source talks about looking for the human element in your work.
Okay.
Share personal stories of impact.
Okay. So put a face
A face to the cause.
to the statistics.
Exactly. Make it relatable.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to use visuals, photos, videos, infographics.
Right. Because that can really capture people's attention.
Absolutely.
Okay. So storytelling, we can use that in our marketing. We can use that in our fundraising. Now let's talk about another important aspect of running a nonprofit: advocacy.
Advocacy, yeah, because nonprofits aren't just about providing services.
Right.
They're also about creating change.
So how do we do that?
Well, the source talks about a few different approaches.
Okay.
You can educate policymakers
Okay.
about the issues that matter to you.
Uh-huh.
You can mobilize your supporters
Okay.
to contact their elected officials.
Right. So get them involved in the process.
Get them involved, yeah.
Yeah.
You can build coalitions with other organizations that are working on similar issues.
So collaboration is important.
Collaboration is key. And, raising awareness among the general public.
Okay.
That's a big part of advocacy as well.
Right. So educating the public about, what you're doing and
Why it matters.
and why it's important.
Exactly.
Okay. So advocacy, it's a multifaceted approach to really creating lasting change.
It is.
All right. Let's talk about collaboration.
Collaboration.
Because we just talked about how it's important in terms of advocacy.
But
So
it's important for everything.
it really is.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the nonprofit world, sometimes collaboration can feel like competition.
I understand that, but I think the truth is we can achieve so much more
Yeah.
when we work together.
So how do we find the right partners
Yeah.
to collaborate with?
Well, the source recommends identifying organizations that share your values and your goals.
Okay, so we're all kind of on the same page
On the same page, yeah.
and moving in the same direction.
And then you can look for opportunities to work together, whether it's joint fundraising campaigns
Right.
or shared programs or even just cross promotions.
Okay, so it's about, really finding that common ground and working together
This is that
to achieve a shared vision.
shared vision.
Okay, I like it. All right, so we talked about collaboration. Let's talk about self-care.
Ah, self-care. This is so important.
It is, but it's so easy to forget about,
I know, especially when you're passionate about your work.
right? And you're so busy.
So busy, you're just giving.
Yeah, then you burn out.
You burn out, exactly, and the source actually warns about that.
Okay,
They say burnout is a real risk
Yeah.
for nonprofit professionals.
so what can we do to prevent that?
Well, they recommend prioritizing self-care practices,
Okay,
things like getting enough sleep.
okay, I need to work on that one.
Yeah, we all do. Eating healthy foods,
Okay,
exercising regularly,
right.
spending time doing things that you enjoy.
Right, so it's about making time for yourself.
Making time for yourself, even if it's just a few minutes each day,
Right.
to meditate or listen to music or just to take a walk outside.
Okay, those are good tips. And it's easy to forget about those things
It is.
when you're so busy trying to save the world.
I know, but remember, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Oh, that's good.
So you got to take care of yourself first.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about self-care now. Let's talk about succession planning.
Succession plan. Oh, this is a tough one.
I know it's not fun to think about,
Nobody likes to think about leaving their organization.
right? Especially if you've poured your heart and soul into it.
Exactly. But the reality is everyone eventually moves on.
Right.
And it's important to have a plan in place for when that happens.
So where do we even begin with succession planning?
Well, the source suggests developing a clear process
Okay.
for identifying and training potential successors
Uh-huh.
for key roles.
So it's like grooming future leaders.
Grooming future leaders, yes.
Yeah.
And documenting key processes and procedures.
So if somebody new steps into a role,
They know what to do.
they know what to do.
They have a roadmap,
Okay.
and then, ensuring a smooth transition of leadership,
Okay.
whether it's through mentorship programs or phased retirements, or even creating an interim leadership structure.
All right. So succession planning, it's something we need to think about, even if it's not the most fun thing to talk about.
It is.
But let's talk about something that is fun to talk about: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Ah, yes.
Ah.
This is a crucial topic.
It is. And the source really emphasizes the importance of creating a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive nonprofit sector.
Absolutely.
So where do we begin?
Well, the source recommends starting by looking at your own internal practices and policies,
Okay.
Conducting diversity audits
Okay.
to assess your current level of representation,
Right.
and then providing diversity training to
Mm.
your staff and board members.
So it's about, educating ourselves
Educating ourselves, yeah.
and creating a more welcoming and inclusive environment.
Exactly. And it's ongoing work.
Right. This is not just like a one and done.
No, it's a journey.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about innovation.
Ooh, innovation. I love this topic.
It's exciting, right?
It is. It's all about embracing new ideas,
Yeah.
experimenting, finding creative solutions.
But how do we create that culture of innovation?
Well, the source recommends encouraging experimentation,
Okay.
creating a safe space for people to share their ideas
Uh-huh.
without fear of judgment, embracing new technologies,
Yeah.
and in staying connected to the wider world.
So attending conferences,
Yeah.
reading industry publications,
Yeah, getting out there.
talking to other people, seeing what they're doing.
Exactly, because you never know where that next great idea is going to come from.
That's true. Okay, so we've talked about innovation. Let's wrap things up with financial planning,
Financial planning, yeah, because, we talked about financial management earlier,
right?
but financial planning is really about taking that long-term view
Okay,
and ensuring your organization's financial health.
right. Sustainability.
Sustainability, yeah, for the long haul.
How do we do that?
Well, the source recommends starting with a realistic budget.
Okay.
That reflects your priorities and your projected income and expenses.
So knowing where your money is going.
Knowing where it's going, yeah. And then forecasting future revenue and expenses.
So looking ahead,
Looking ahead, yeah.
planning for the future.
Planning for the future.
Yeah.
And creating a reserve fund.
A reserve fund.
Yeah, like a rainy day fund.
Okay, so if something unexpected happens,
We've got that cushion.
we've got that cushion.
Yeah.
All right. And the source also talks about investing wisely,
Yeah.
diversifying your assets,
Yeah,
and seeking professional financial advice.
when needed. Yeah.
So it's about being smart with your money.
Being smart,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Oh.
making sure that you have the resources that you need to fulfill your mission.
Awesome. So it's about taking a hard look at ourselves
Yeah.
and, figuring out where we can improve.
Yeah, and there are some practical steps you can take, like
Mm.
conduct diversity audits to see, how you're doing in terms of representation.
Uh-huh.
And then diversity training is huge
Okay.
for staff and board members,
Right.
just to raise awareness about bias and discrimination
Right.
and promote a more inclusive culture.
So creating a welcoming environment for everybody.
Absolutely. And it's a journey.
It is. It's not a one-time thing.
It's ongoing, for sure.
Okay. And along those lines, let's talk about innovation,
Well, innovation.
because that's how we move forward, right?
That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
So how do we foster that culture of innovation in our organization?
Well, you got to encourage experimentation.
Okay.
Create a safe space for people to share ideas,
Yeah.
even crazy ideas,
Right.
without fear of judgment.
Okay.
Embrace new technologies
Uh-huh.
and stay connected to the wider world.
So, read those industry publications.
Yeah.
Go to those conferences. Network talks people.
Because you never know where that next great idea is going to come from.
That's true. Okay, so we've covered innovation now. Last but not least, financial planning.
Oh, yeah. Got to talk about the money.
Got to talk about the money. And, we talked about financial management.
Right. The day-to-day.
Right. But this is more about that
It's a
long-term
big picture.
sustainability.
Exactly.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, you got to start with a realistic budget,
Okay.
one that reflects your priorities and your projected income and expenses,
So knowing where your money is going.
where it's going and where it's coming from,
Yeah.
and then, forecasting future revenue and expenses.
So looking ahead,
Oh,
anticipating those future needs and challenges,
okay.
and then a reserve fund,
A reserve fund.
that rainy day fund.
Right. So if something unexpected happens,
You've got a little cushion.
okay, good to have that cushion.
And then, investing wisely, diversifying your assets.
Uh-huh.
And, sometimes getting professional financial advice.
Okay, so it's about being smart with our money.
Be smart. Yeah,
Okay, well, this has been a whirlwind.
it has.
We have covered so much ground in this deep dive
I feel like we've really, breaking down all the essential elements.
of creating a successful nonprofit.
Yeah, from that mission statement all the way to financial planning.
Yeah, I think anyone who's listening who is thinking about starting a nonprofit,
They've got a good roadmap now. They have a great roadmap thanks to this source, how to create a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
it's a great resource.
It is. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Remember that spark that made you want to do this in the first place?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on to that spark, nurture it.
I'll let fuel you.
Yeah, and let it guide you as you go on this journey.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are people who can help you.
There are so many resources out there, other organizations, people who have done this before.
Find your tribe.
Find your tribe. Exactly. So go out there and make your vision a reality. The world needs your passion, your dedication, and your commitment to creating positive change.
We're rooting for you.
We can't wait to see the amazing things that you accomplish.